Just a heads up, we'll be discussing distressing themes on today's episode, including sexual abuse. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Emma Gillespie.
I'm Lucy Tassell.
A landmark class action has been filed against the Australian Defence Force, alleging widespread and systemic sexual violence, harassment and discrimination over the past 2 decades. The legal case represents potentially thousands of women who have served in the military, and today we are going to break down everything you need to know about this case and the allegations against the ADF.
Emma, what do we need to know about these legal proceedings? Who's involved?
So last week, a class action was filed in the federal court against the Commonwealth of Australia, so aka the federal government, on behalf of women who have served in the Australian Defence Force. So that includes Air Force, Navy and the Army. Now, the reason that this case is against the Commonwealth of Australia is because ADF is part of the Department of Defence, a government agency. Now, the case has been brought by a legal firm called GJA Sadler, and they're representing these 4 lead applicants whose names have been withheld for legal reasons, but the action is open to basically any woman who has experienced sexual violence, sexual harassment or discrimination while serving in the ADF between November 2003 and May 2025. So that is a 21-year period covering, like I said, the Army, Navy and Air Force.
So we've got these 4 main plaintiffs and we've got this other kind of group of women who could join. Can you just explain how that works?
Yeah, so this is a class action, which is a type of lawsuit where many people with similar claims, all against the same individual or corporation or government, are represented together by one entity. So instead of each of these women filing separate cases against the ADF, they've come together under this one legal action. Now, this class action specifically is being pursued on what's called an opt-out basis, which basically means all women who served in the ADF during that 21-year period are automatically included unless they specifically declare that they don't want to be part of the proceedings. So the lawyers representing these applicants are predicting that thousands of women will form part of the class action and that many more are yet to come forward with their stories of alleged abuse.
What are the allegations being made against the ADF?
Overall, this class action alleges that the ADF systematically failed to protect women in its ranks from sexual harassment, sexual violence, and discrimination. And this lawsuit argues that the ADF has responsibilities as an employer, as any employer has responsibilities and a duty of care to their staff. And therefore, the ADF should be held accountable for creating an environment where this harm could occur, according to the class action.
So you mentioned there are these 4 lead applicants bringing the case. What can you tell me about them and their stories? Obviously, we don't know their names, but we would know other stuff, right?
Absolutely. All 4 women have detailed quite disturbing, varying allegations of sexual assaults and harassment and bullying. I'm going to take you through some more specific details, but this is where it gets more uncomfortable. 2 applicants allege that they were subjected to frequent sexist comments during training. For example, comments about women being paid too much, women not pulling their weight in the Defence Force. One woman in the Air Force said she was sexually assaulted on a night out with her colleagues. She claims that she complained to military officials about what had happened to her, but ultimately they chose not to take any action and didn't provide reasons why. An applicant who served in the Navy also alleges that a colleague once grabbed and forcibly kissed her. There is a particularly distressing allegation from one of the 4 women who alleges she woke up the night after a party with her colleagues, completely naked, disoriented, in physical pain, and with bruises and scratches. She said she was later told that she had left the party with 4 of her male colleagues, and at some point she was alone with one of them. Now, this applicant made a formal complaint with the ADF. She said that she was forced to undergo a sexual assault examination in a storage room, and that after she made the complaint, she became alienated by her colleagues and peers, said that the alleged perpetrator faced no restrictions while she was barred from using shared amenities, and received abusive messages from servicemen in the Defence Forces who she was essentially living with, working with and around all day, every day.
Yeah. You said this class action goes back to 2003. So does that mean we're mainly looking at historic incidents?
Hello, Billy here from TDA. We have just looked at our YouTube analytics and 95% of you who are watching our videos aren't subscribing. If you want to help independent media like us grow, the best way you can do that is by pressing subscribe. Thank you so much, and back to the video.
Well, actually, the lawyers involved in the class action, GJA Sadler, and the director of that firm, Josh Aylward, who is representing some of these applicants, he specifically noted that some of these incidents that we're talking about actually occurred allegedly within the last 12 months.
Oh, okay.
So these are not historical cases only. There are some very fresh allegations. But Aylward said, quote, "The threat of war often isn't the biggest safety fear for female ADF personnel. It is the threat of sexual violence in their workplace." And he essentially is arguing that that threat has persisted over multiple decades. It should also be noted that this class action hasn't exactly come out of nowhere. There has been this increasing focus on these sorts of issues within the Defence Force in recent years, including several reports and inquiries and recommendations into systematic sexual harassment within the ADF and its treatment of female staff specifically.
Yeah. Has anything come from those inquiries?
We had, you might remember, the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide.
Yeah.
That was a long-running inquiry that handed down its final report in September last year. Now, that recommended an external independent inquiry into military sexual violence in the ADF after finding close to 800 reports of sexual assaults in the ADF over a 5-year period. The Commission also noted that the actual number of assaults could be significantly higher than that 800 figure because, according to the final report, an estimated 60% of incidents actually go unreported. So we don't know the scale, but we know that, according to this finding, there is a concerning scale of sexual assaults. As part of that Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide, there was a workplace behaviour survey. Now, that found 1 in 8 women in the ADF self-reported experiencing sexual misconduct in the previous 12 months.
Wow.
The Commission has described the impact of sexual violence on serving and former members as, quote, "nothing short of horrific."
Yeah. So there is then some important context leading up to this class action. The Department of Defence governs the ADF. That's part of the government. So what's been their response?
So a defence spokesperson has acknowledged that there is, quote unquote, work to be done. They said the ADF is developing a comprehensive sexual misconduct prevention strategy as part of the recommendation from that inquiry, and that this is a key priority area for defence. They added, quote, "All defence personnel have a right to be respected and deserve to have a positive workplace experience in the ADF. There is no place for sexual violence or misconduct in defence." We have heard from the federal opposition leader, Susan Lee. She's commented on this case, saying every workplace should dedicate resources, effort, and a system of reporting that allows women to confidently express circumstances where they do not feel safe.
So then what happens next?
Well, the case has been filed in the federal court in Sydney, the New South Wales branch. Now it will go through the legal processes. As you know, Lucy, that can take many months and even many years. Because this is a class action, especially, there could be a considerable time spent working through the courts and working through all of the allegations levelled at the ADF from the multiple women who will sign on as applicants, who are expected to. GJA Sadler, the law firm, are actually calling for current and ex-serving ADF members who believe they've been affected by these issues to register their interest. So it said that all information will remain confidential, but essentially that law firm is in that early stage of trying to put together a comprehensive analysis of what the experience of women in the ADF has looked like for the last 20 years, a really vast period of time. The lawyers are also calling for action, accountability, and what they describe as, quote, real change for women in defence who have been silenced or dismissed for too long. And so inevitably that will include seeking financial compensation for the women involved in this class action. Depending on what unfolds over the coming years, that could be, several millions of dollars in the form of a government payout.
Thanks so much for walking us through that, Emma.
Thanks, Lucy.
And if today's episode has raised any issues for you, help is always available at 1-800-RESPECT. That's 1-800-737-732. We'll put some more resources in today's show notes. We'll see you this afternoon for the headlines. Until then, have a great day.